But man, I'm excited. Me and John were talking, and I said, hey, look, give the real deal, give the fire, give the people something they can take away and use. And I already know that's what's going to happen. But for anybody that doesn't know Dr. John Rusin, obviously industry leader, we've had his event, well, in some form or another, certification a number of times, but now the event like 5 times, 6 times. We got another one in December 6 and 7. Look that up, by the way, if you want to do the PPSC certification. It's at Vigor Ground. Live, physical event, because we're getting back to this, baby. But man, he's kind of created a model that, has been so phenomenal, because every time people come to certification, they kind of go like, oh man, like I've been able to break this down and implement it tomorrow. Not like some stuff up in the ether that, you can't use, but things that you can use tomorrow. And you'll be better coaches, being able to get better results with clients and making sure that they're pain-free and improving. And that's really like our conversation was like, hey, drop the knowledge on the P4 programming. And that's what John's going to do today. And that's what, like, I really don't want to take too much time, because I want to make sure that he can have the time to drop knowledge. And at the end, we'll see if we got time, for some questions and Q&A. We'll definitely take that time. But with that said, I'm honored to announce Mr. Dr. John Rusin, who's going to drop fire. And let's get it going, guys. Get sharp, drink your caffeine, get on point, baby.
All right. Screen share this bad boy.
Yep. Whenever you're ready. I'll just make sure that it's on. Bam.
How's that looking?
Looking great, buddy. All right, I'm gonna let you rock and roll.
All right, everyone at the Vigor Ground Virtual Summit today. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here tuning in to Two Bald Bros right now for the 2 p.m. PST hour. And I do appreciate that, but in all seriousness, our industry has gotten our fucking asses handed to us. And I take it very seriously coming in here with the best of the best that Luca has brought in for this summit and trying to pay it forward to all of you guys that I know that are clawing their way through one of the toughest times that we've ever had as an industry. And it's tough because we see a lot of challenges out there, and every single day is going to present a battle in front of us. And you know what? It's just getting started. But when Luca asked me to come in here and speak to you all at the Vigor Ground Virtual Summit, we had a back and forth a little bit. What do I talk about? My name is Dr. John Rusin. I am the business owner of the Pain-Free Performance Specialist certification. We've certified over 5,000 people worldwide in under 2 years, which I'm extraordinarily proud of. I'm also the owner of P4 Performance Programming, which is one of the biggest online one-on-one online training businesses in the industry today. And also, you guys probably have read a lot of articles from me over on our main hub, drjohnrusin.com. So, in terms of the business summit, there are so many great business leaders that you are going to be hearing from later on today, and then of course later on into this weekend. So we wanted to do something a little bit different and talk about something that truly makes a coach COVID proof. Now, I have the extraordinary opportunity to have a staff of 40 coaches all across the world being able to go out and lead instruct for our Pain-Free Performance Specialist certification. Also have 5 coaches here in Madison, Wisconsin, where we're located. But one thing that I've seen across the globe and right here and right now in America that is making the difference is being the best coach in the room, best coach in your city, best coach in your state, best coach that anyone can go on to a news feed and learn from. And that's what I think being COVID proof is all about. It's not necessarily about the best business tactics on Instagram or on Facebook. Yes, that stuff is important, but it's about getting results. It's about building relationships, and it's having a track record of success of taking care of people when they need it the most. That's today. That is the life that we're living in pre and post COVID right here and right now. People call it the new normal, but this is truly the new normal. But what doesn't have to be normal is you losing your business. What doesn't have to be normal is you struggling to get online or go back into person, not knowing where your next dollar is coming from. And what truly you don't need to be struggling with is delivering for your clients when they need it the most. Now, we are dealing with stress out of control right now. People are losing their jobs. Gyms are down to 10 or 20% max capacities. Training is not really something that people are thinking about. They're thinking about how their family is going to get through with 3 kids at home doing virtual. They're thinking about how they're going to make their next dollar because they just got furloughed. They're thinking about anything other than their health. But I think the health and the way that we use training as a vehicle to better somebody's life is going to be the thing that not only gets us through COVID, but also gets us through to try to change the wave of our current health epidemic in this country between obesity and otherwise chronic diseases that are preventable. So today I am going to speak to something that has taken me 14 years to develop, to perfect, and to continue to evolve here. And this is the P4 programming blueprint. This is the exact blueprint that I use with my clients, that I use when I go out and consult with some of the best gym chains in the world. And this is exactly the system that we teach in my Pain-Free Performance Specialist certification course. Now, the P4 programming blueprint is something that is simple. It's something that is applicable, but also going to be an absolute effective game changer if you can implement and adopt some of these principle-based strategies. Now, the P4 programming blueprint across the board has not only helped people pre-COVID run great businesses, get into the 6 figures of in-person training and online, it's also been adopted by some of the biggest gym chains and fitness industry leaders like Equinox, Lifetime Fitness, Vasa Fitness. We've had this out at Exos and Elite FTS. Anyone and everyone has been through adopting this model. And it's something that I'm extraordinarily proud of because I look at it as the culmination of everything that I've worked so hard to try to develop and then pay forward back to our coaches within this industry in my entire career. So let's get into it, the P4 programming blueprint. Now, before I get into the X's and the O's of the P4 programming blueprint, the sexy things, the squats, hinge lunges, push, pull, carries, getting sweaty, getting muscular, big squats, it would be negligent of me as an educator and as a coach not to talk about some foundational habits that truly escalate and amplify our efforts as coaches for results and relationships of our clients. There are 7 things that truly you cannot fake if you plan on getting long-term, life-changing results with your clients. Now, I know Luca has brought in an extraordinary lineup of experts, ones that can speak to nutrition far more than I can, sleep science, and also going into breathing and breath meditation work. But what I think we need to conceptualize is we don't all have to be the be-all expert in every single tiny little niche out there. We need to know our strengths, but also know that our weaknesses do exist and know where to get some of that information from. So let's go right down the line here. I hate to insult your intelligence, but many times the thing that makes the best coaches COVID-proof or into the next challenge proof are being able to do the simple things extraordinarily well. That first one, we need to be addressing more with our clients what is going in and also the quality of the food that we are fueling our bodies with on a daily basis. This is something that gets a lot of attention in our industry today, but really from an applicability standpoint, we need to know the quality and the quantity and synergize these 2 things together to try to habituate a nutrition or a diet lifestyle practice that's not a quick fix. It's something that is long-term and is sustainable from a habitual standpoint. You know, on the side of habitual standpoints, there's one thing that we can guarantee that every single human being needs to know and do on a daily basis, and that's actually rest and sleep. Now, the best sleep science that we have available to us today says that we need to be having about 7.25 hours of restful sleep per night. Now, I'm just a meathead, so I'm not going to go into 7.25. I'm going to round that bad boy up and recommend that you go in and you spend 8 hours in your bed at night. So maybe it takes you a half hour to get to sleep. Maybe you check Instagram for the first 15 minutes upon waking. If you can get into your bed and rest for 8 hours per night, you are going to be doing extraordinarily well in terms of a lot of physiological and metabolic based systems that is far, far more complicated than this chart right here and right now. The simple things extraordinarily well. Let's not neglect sleep. Next one. We live in a different day and age today. So number 3 is about moving your body mindfully every waking hour. Now I'm sitting here right now and I'm slouched over, internally rotated. I got a flex spine. I'm looking at a computer screen, but that's the new normal for many of us. You know, for the last decade or two, we've had a higher incidence of work-related injuries, of people literally hurting and in pain being at a desk for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, then getting into their car and driving an hour or two home, and then going home and actually sitting down and Netflixing and chill for the rest of the night. We are dealing with a highly sedentary population, even amongst those that have a physical practice, those that are training multiple days a week, people that are otherwise active for an hour a day. We are spending a lot of time in static positions. And what I challenge each and every one of my clients and coaches with is having a break cycle for all of our clients. Being able to actually stand up, reset your daily postures, and do that every single hour. So it's as easy as taking a walk. It's as easy as doing a couple ass squeezes. Or if you are a real functional guru, like many of my coaches are, we're going to bring a band right to the office with us and get our pull aparts and face pulls in right there to reset that posture. Now, this is something that is a culmination of many of the days, the weeks, the months that we can get a cumulative effect of starting to feel better and function our best, especially as we get into the gym and transfer those skills from the gym back into our daily lives, because that's why we're doing it in the first place. Now, getting into preparation at the gym, or even if you don't make it to the gym that day, how do we maintain our body so it looks, feels, and functions the best on a daily basis? It's as simple as 10 minutes, and a lot of things can be done in a short period of time. But it's a non-negotiable for many of my clients to invest 10 minutes on maintenance of the body per day. Whether that look like a mobility routine in front of the TV, maybe it's getting out your soft tissue work with the foam roller. Maybe it's actually just laying down and have some mindful meditation and bringing down your vital metrics so you can take on the next couple hours of homeschool with your kids. Investing 10 minutes a day, and especially doing it with mindful actions, is something that can truly change the way that you mentally, cognitively, and physically perform on a daily basis. Now, I know that 1 through 4, those are the least sexy things that I possibly could have started this presentation with, but they are that important. They are the cornerstones of how human beings optimally function. And they become more important as more of our population loses the ability to do the simple things well. But the thing that I love, the thing that you guys most likely tuned into right now to hear me talk about, is training. Training is something that I have loved since I picked up my first weight at 14 years old. It's something that I loved starting my career as a Division I strength and conditioning coach in Buffalo, New York. It's something that I loved every second of working in Olympic and professional sports. And it's something that I love more than ever today, working with general fitness clientele and me being a consumer of our own programs and being able to live a better life via what we do in the gym. Now, number 5 and number 6, these are pivotal, but I'd like to really key in on number 5 here. Strength train 3 times per week as a bare minimum. Now, we have more and more literature and research coming out on what it seems like a daily basis. But one thing can be held true. Strength training is unlocking the fountain of youth if we do it right. Strength training can reverse the aging process. Strength training can mitigate against pain and injuries. And strength training and being a stronger version of yourself is the thing that can put you into the driver's seat of living into your 7th, 8th, 9th decade on this earth and being able to be physically and mentally autonomous for life. Now, the last number of years, moving more and more into general fitness populations, working with more 30, 40, 70-year-olds, we know one thing and we've learned one thing above all else. There's many vanity goals out there. There's many goals of building muscle or benching 3 plates or being able to lose that excess adipose tissue on the stomach so you can get a 6-pack abs like Luka to head out to the beach when spring break rolls around. But what we really see as a key centralized spoke in the wheel is being able to be stronger. We're going to speak to exactly why strength is such a cornerstone of human performance and prevention later on today. But it's not all about strength training. We need to be eclectic. We need to be well-rounded. Cardiovascular training, meaning that you're actually having the goal of training the heart, that is something that we should be doing 2 times per week at a bare minimum. And this is going to set us up for, hopefully, health, wellness, and long-term success with the physical practice. Number 7, before we get going on the P4 programming blueprint here, is something that I've personally had to use a ton, and I've had to remind myself and have my coaches actually remind me of on a daily basis here, because again, stress is high at work, at home. We need to breathe. We need to meditate. And more than everything, even in the hard times, we need to be able to show gratitude and train this up here to be positive. This is something that truly within a matter of 3 to 4 deep diaphragmatic breaths, we can change the physiology of our body and we can change the acuity of our brain. That's something that we should not neglect, and it's something that is free. You'll notice that many of these key habits on the first slide are free. They don't cost money. They cost your mental energy, your emotional acuity, and also your physical practice on a daily basis. The best things in life are free, and the best things that we could possibly do for our health and longevity are these 7 habits. So don't neglect the simple things, especially when we live in a day and age that loves the shiny objects on Instagram. Now, the 4 phases of the perfect workout. A smile comes right on my face because I fucking love this shit. You know, if it was up to me, I would train on a daily basis, not only with myself, but groups and groups and groups of people. And this is something that is a true multimodalic based approach, meaning that we work not to dogmatically double down on one single physical discipline. We try to train all physical disciplines simultaneously and not make the mistake of neglecting one or multiple of these that actually take away from our health and longevity. Now, the 4 physical disciplines that I'm talking about here are power, strength, endurance, and mobility. If you want to go a little bit deeper onto that, we can talk about body composition, and we can also talk about agility and athleticism. But really what we can do on a daily basis in the gym is try to train as many of these 4 physical traits as we possibly can, of course, in a sequence and a systemized way. This type of programming is what I've become known for in the fitness industry. In 2016, I released one of my first program, which is called Functional Hypertrophy Training. It was actually one of the first users on it was Luka Hocevar. And after 12 weeks, him and his team rolled through, and it was at the old Vigor ground. And they were like, man, everyone got super jacked. Everyone's healthy. We want to know more about that. And a quick aside here and a quick story that I want to pay it forward to Luka on is that after they ran through that program, and this is in early 2016, Luka, always looking for the next thing, always looking to level up his education. In a matter of a phone call, I was out on a flight the next week to give a seminar to the Vigor Ground staff. You know, we had some amazing people there in attendance. You know, we had Dan Swinsco, the physical therapist. We had Theo, who's doing great things out at Vigor Ground right now. It was a dynamic room, but a lot of people don't know that was my first presentation that I've ever given. Of course, I gave some in school. You know, being in school for 8 years, you have to give a number of presentations, but that was the first professional presentation I'd ever given on this type of stuff, which was my performance training model. And a lot of things happen quickly, but I look at that as the impetus of the education model that is extraordinarily well known in the industry today. Being able to have 5,000 certified pain-free performance specialists worldwide, and those were all people certified in person live in the last 2 years. It's amazing. It's sometimes I have to pinch myself, but I do have to give it to Luca of pushing me to actually get in front, to get educating, to share my systems, and actually push it out there and try to positively affect people, not only in my client list, not only on my coaching team, but even abroad. But that was a while ago, but the principles remain the same. That's why I'm so excited to share this with you guys today. The P4 stands for prepare, prime, perform, and pump. Now, each and every one of these 4 Ps is extraordinarily important, but they are all a sign of a system that is stronger than the sum of its parts. Now, the system is what we truly teach, because a system is able to be adopted. A system is scalable for your clientele. A system is simple, and a system is something that can be manipulated based on the coach's experience, the coach's skill sets, and of course, the needs, the wants, and the goal sets of the clients in front of you. Now, we look at the P4 programming blueprint is a system that could be used from youth athletic training all the way up to managing geriatric populations. It's found itself into Olympic and professional sports, and it's really made its way as a home, a true home within the general fitness population is where we do a vast majority of our work today. But this is a complete training day. This is a multimodal based approach to health, performance, and longevity. So let's jump into this and we'll get into a little bit more of the details so you can, again, like Lucas said, take action upon it when you get back to your clients, no matter if you're doing in-person or online training on Monday. Prepare is phase 1 of the P4. Now, this is straight from the Pain-Free Performance Specialist Certifications curriculum here. The 6-phase dynamic warm-up sequence was one of the first systems that we truly battle tested. Now, what does it mean, battle testing a system? For us, it meant that we started off this system in 2013, utilized by hundreds and thousands of clients of my personal coaching and skill. So we took it from there and we continued to fine tune, to continue to perfect, and more than anything, continued to simplify our offerings to make the dynamic warm-up sequence, which is essentially our physical preparation process before we get into the actual loaded movements of a training day, as simple, as efficient, and as effective as we possibly could. Now, this has come a long, long way because I have a background in trying to get a little bit too fancy a decade or so ago, where we would have corrective exercise after corrective exercise. We'd be foam rolling every nook and cranny of the body, as many of you have made the mistakes of doing as well. And our entire training session ended up being 2.5 hours long because we spent the first 45 minutes rolling around on the ground, awkwardly humping a foam roller that wasn't really good for the coach nor for the client. So we looked at what are the biggest yielding modalities that we could possibly use, and how do these things fit together so we can actually get into a wave sequence of preparation for the body. Now, optimal preparation for me is about 2 things, and these are in order. It's about mitigating the risk of pain and injuries, not only during that training session, but also in somebody's daily life. And then secondarily, we want to perform to the top of our capabilities. We want to have our body primed, prepared, and ready to go, because the stronger and the better that we can move in the training session itself, the better that those skills, those motor acquired skills, can transfer into somebody's movement library and have them actually habituate it for life. So looking at this, the 6 phases of the dynamic warm-up are nothing that you haven't seen before. And I don't pretend to be an innovator on this stuff. We've seen foam rolling in phase 1, mobility and stretch work in phase 2, corrective exercise in phase 3, activation drills in phase 4, movement preparation phase 5, and central nervous system stimulation, explosive based work in phase 6. I guarantee you guys, if you've been coaching enough clients over a longer period of time, that you've done each and every one of these modalities. Hopefully you've had some success with them, because from the research, from the literature, but also from real world applicability, These are 6 extraordinarily effective tools. But what makes these tools more effective than just doing one or another, or having to make the decision of what to do that day, is the way that these interact together in, again, the system. Now, I think of this as a wave. When your clients walk through the door, they may be coming in at 4:30 a.m., ready to train first thing in the morning. They woke up 6 minutes before and they drank a coffee 1 minute before your training session. Are they optimally prepared to come in? Maybe, probably not. Or you have the opposite end of the spectrum. You're doing 5:30 p.m. sessions. Somebody just got their ass kicked all day at work. Their stress is literally palpable on their face. They have blood pressure that is making their face red, and they're about to have an aneurysm. You have those people as well. Are they optimally ready to get under the bar, to perform to the capability that they know that they're able to? Probably not. So what we're looking at is, no matter where the client comes in, we want to get them downregulated first in this first phase that is indicated in the red. Phase 1 and phase 2 as a parasympathetic emphasis, meaning that we want to chill them the fuck out before we ramp them back up. Because if we can control the controllable factors, which is a parasympathetic state, which is low heart rate, respiratory rate, those things, we can more strategically bring them up exactly where we want them for performance. Now, this yellow phase is 3 and 4. This is about acquiring new motor skills, learning a thing or two about how your body moves through space, and actually maybe opening up range of motion or restabilizing new said range of motion. This is something that a vast majority of your clients need. I know they say they just want to build muscle or lose 20 pounds of fat, but you know what gets them to that point? It's being able to move better, being able to own their foundational movement patterns, and actually acquire new skills on a daily basis. That's something that's really missing in today's fitness industry, is acquiring new skills and continuously evolving your movement library and getting it more and more diverse. Now, from there, we're looking at actually getting a sweat on the face in this green 5 and 6 phases, where we are greasing the groove of a foundational movement pattern, a squat, hinge, lunge, push, pull, carry, something that we plan on loading that day. And then in phase 6, we're moving explosively. We're trying to train the brain here. We're trying to truly prime the central nervous system to be the best version of itself before we get in and actually train. Now, this is an exact system that we invest 6 hours of day 1 in the Pain-Free Performance Specialist certification each and every weekend across the world. And this is something that has been utilized now by tens of thousands of people. And the thing that I'm most proud of about this 6-phase dynamic warm-up sequence is its effectiveness, 1, its efficiency, 2. It should only take you about 7 to 10 minutes to get through this entire sequence. But 3, the way that it can be plugged and played no matter the skill set. If you're a kettlebell guy, if you're a power lifter, if you're looking at body weight training, all of this stuff can actually be plugged and played based on your specific skill sets. Again, I'll mention it. The power is in the system. Now, moving on from the preparation phase, we get into the first loaded movement pattern of the day, which is the priming phase. Now, the priming is about explosive, power-based movements. And you may be sitting there thinking, John, I train grandmothers who are 68 years old that literally just want to not fall, break their hip, and die. Why should I be doing explosive power-based movements with these people? It comes down to power being the number 1 physical trait that is lost due to aging, starting at about age 31. Each and every year, we have deteriorating force production and power recruitment because it is a learned disuse. We don't use it, therefore we lose it. But power, being able to move rapidly, being able to change direction, being able to, again, stabilize with force production is one of the things that keeps us ambulatory. It's one of the things that unlocks our ability to maintain type 2 muscle fibers and muscularity as we age. It's also one of the things that will keep us acquiring new skills over time. And I just mentioned how pivotal that is, not only for the body, but also for the brain. Now, when you're programming here, this again is after the 6-phase dynamic warm-up and right before we go super hard and heavy in whatever our key movement of the day is. This is going to be dependent on having your clients, or even yourself if you're utilizing this system, use explosive intent. So we want to move fast. We want to move powerfully. Power and priming is the goal of this phase. The goal of this phase is not to grind out ugly reps. The goal of this phase is not to get a skin tearing pump. We're going to go over that in a couple slides here. The goal of this phase is to prime the central nervous system, which is this, in order to, again, overreach in terms of your physical and your mental and emotional capabilities in the gym. Now, one of the reasons that people oftentimes neglect power training in their programming for any type of clientele is that it doesn't feel hard. It doesn't get you super sweaty. It doesn't get you super jacked. What it does is combines low rep schemes between about 1 and 5 repetitions here, and light loading between maybe 10 to 30% of predicted 1 RM, which is extraordinarily light. These two things together make it seem inherently easy when you look at it on a piece of paper or a programming scheme from your coach. But the key factor of getting the most out of this and keeping the goal, which is to prime the central nervous system, is again, explosive intent. Now, we're not doing a whole lot of volume here. We're not doing a whole lot of repetitions. We are keeping a low volume of work and having a max of about 25 total reps here. The way that I like to do this is having 3 to 5 working sets of about 1 to 5 or 6 repetitions. We want to have ample rest between. Usually it's going to be about 20 to 45 seconds. And more so, that is for mental rehearsal. We want to make sure that our brain is focused, our mentality is explosive, and we're getting the most out of this phase that altogether should only take about 4 to 6 minutes to start your workout with. Now, the centralized training effect is pivotal to understand here. Centralized training effect is you're not necessarily training the musculature. You're not training the connective tissue. What we're doing is utilizing the things peripheral on the body, like the muscles, like the connective tissue, to get back up to here and actually heighten the state sympathetically in the brain. So we are training the brain in phase 2 of priming. Now, one of the things that I've gravitated towards in the last number of years is being able to use primers that are full body recruitment. So they are dependent on rotation of force transference between the lower body, upper body, vice versa. And it's something that we can utilize really sexy tools with, things that are actually fun for people to train with in the gym. Something that I've been known for training maybe a little bit too much with. Banded accommodating resistance, chains, and then one of my all-time favorites, something that we train 3 to 4 days a week here in my gym, is the landmine, which alters the strength curve, allowing us to explode further through ranges of motion and actually get that effect up here even more. So priming should have you feeling your best if you do it right. Very low reps, very low weights, extraordinarily high explosiveness and intent, and low number of reps. You should be feeling like you want to run through a fucking brick wall if you do this one right. And you know what? You're going to be stronger and more powerful when you actually get into your next loaded movement pattern of the day, which should be your most important, which is phase 3 and what we're going to move on to next. Now, phase 3, this is arguably the most important thing that you do in a training session. This is the thing that we love to focus on. This is the thing that gets likes and clicks and shares on social media. This is what I refer to as the performance block, the key performance indicator, the KPI movement. Now, this truly is the most important movement that you will do that day or even that week in a training block. The most important movement is dictated by a foundational movement pattern being trained. Now, it is going to be trained the hardest, it is going to train the heaviest, or most likely the fastest in that training day. Many times coaches, we have too many options. We want to do too many things simultaneously at once. But I challenge you to get one single key performance indicator per training day and really focus in on that for long-term progressive overload. Now, in your squat, hinge, lunge, push, pull, carry, those are the 6 foundational movement patterns. Over time, we want to get stronger at those training movement patterns. We want to be able to progressively overload because more than anything, we know that the stronger the individual, the more resilient they will be against pain, injuries, and market dysfunction. Strength, again, is the fountain of youth, and strength training is something that can unlock health and longevity more than any other physical trait. That's what makes the key performance indicator lifts the most important movement patterns of the day. Now, these are trained best in traditional power and strength rep schemes. We train them from a 1 RM all the way up to a 7 RM. Now, you can think of these as your big lifts. Again, your squat, hinge, lunge, push, pull, and carry. But with 1 to 7 repetitions, these should be heavy, these should be hard, and these should be executed with maximal effort and maximal loading. Now, the maximal effort method is something that's gained a lot of notoriety over the last 2 to 3 decades. It was first popularized over in the Soviet Union and then adopted here in America by Westside Barbell and Louis Simmons. But we take it one step further, a little bit different than what Westside may do in terms of its max effort intent. Now, maximal effort intent means that you are going to get every single ounce of loading out of that set, no matter if you're doing a 1 RM, a 3 RM, a 5 RM, whatever it may be. Meaning that that last rep is a slow straining rep where you get not only mechanical benefits from that set, but also neurological benefits that open up our abilities to actually become stronger. But the thing that we do a little bit differently is it is a non-negotiable to keep great technique, locked in form, and zero mechanical breakdown on any loaded pattern that we do in the gym. Now, not every single rep is going to be YouTube worthy, but we need to be focusing on quality execution because we know that sound biomechanical positions and really sound neural dynamics in terms of being able to control those positions, those are what keeps us in the best and strongest positions to not only perform well, but also stay healthy in the long term. Now, one of the things that I see with the super competitive clients, you'd be surprised who's competitive and who's not in different age demographics and also in different demographics and goal sets, is that people attempt to alter what they're doing. So say they're doing goblet squats. For that last set, if they're competing against their training partner, they'll move their feet out, they'll half rep, they'll do something, or they'll take a strategy that will allow them to perform, essentially cheating more reps. We want to avoid that because in my mind, that is again, mechanical breakdown of the pattern itself. We want nothing to change as loading increases. And that's what I look at as a mastery of a movement pattern. Now, something that we've been doing over the last 5 years or so is throwing out multiple working sets for key performance indicator lifts. You've all seen that before. You get to your big barbell squat for the day. Your coach says, do 5 sets of 5 because that's the best strength scheme ever in human history. And you get through that first set and you're like, man, I just fucking kicked ass on that first working set of 5. And then you take a couple minutes off, you go back in, you barely get out the next set of 5. And then you take a couple minutes and you're like, man, this is tough. Your third set ends up being kind of shitty on the form. Your fourth set, even worse. Your fifth set makes people look at you awkwardly in the gym. And they're wondering when you're going to get hurt. That's what ends up happening many times when we do multiple working sets on the big lifts. The reason being is that when you get these big lifts, especially the big barbell lifts, there's nothing inherently dangerous about them, but they're actually at the top of the movement pattern pyramids. They're the most advanced things that we can do in the gym in terms of mobility, stability, and strength. So what I've gravitated towards in the last number of years is being able to use continuous ramping schemes, meaning that if we plan on barbell back squatting as the key performance indicator lift that day, I am going to start with an empty barbell on my client's back. Then we're going to throw on 25s. Then we're going to throw on 45s. Then we're going to go to 185. Then we're going to go to 225. And we're going to figure out how to get one kick-ass working set at the top that truly challenges them to the top end of their abilities that day, but also keeps them locked in their form and function. This is what I love about being able to use variation and novelty in a lot of our setups. Now, we are always going to be training those 6 foundational movement patterns, the squat, hinge, lunge, push, pull, carry. But I like to use slight variations to take the mental aspect out of a pre-rehearsal of what somebody should be capable of doing. We've all seen it before. If you just use a strict barbell program, maybe you're not feeling it on Tuesday like the previous Tuesday, and you're a terrible person now that you couldn't repeat your numbers from the previous week. We want to cut that out of our clients' mental thought processes. We want to be able to have them be successful, and we want to take loading out of the equation for them, because loading is going to be secondary to the training effects that we're after. This is what I call gamification. If your clients can go into a set not knowing if they're going to do 20 pounds or 200 pounds, it's better off, because then the focus becomes the execution. The focus becomes the targeted musculature, and the focus becomes the gamification of, wow, what can I do today? And maybe you'll shock yourself in what you're able to do in the performance. So use that, the continuous rep scheme, and it's something that has paid off dividends for us and not banging up our clients and actually keeping them healthier and progressing so they can be consistent with their physical practices. Now, after we get that key performance indicator lift and we hit that top end set, we gamify it after that continuous ramp scheme, we get into the one that everybody hired you for, to feel the nasty pump, to get the heart rate up, to get the sweat pouring, and to induce metabolic stress onto the system and onto the muscles that they think they need to work on. Now, it's funny, you ask your clients, why did you hire me? Why did you invest in personal training with me or online training with me? And many times it's not like they're not mature enough at this point in time to say, I really want to change my life because I want to pick up my grandson from the ground and I can't currently do that. That's not what most people are thinking. Even Grandma Betty's like, man, I want my butt to look good. I want to get some suds on that 6-pack, oil that bad boy up and head out to the pool. Vanity is a key driver of action taking in the fitness industry. And a lot of people are honestly just out there looking to get a sweat on, looking to look like they worked hard because they equate working hard or getting sweaty or being fatigued or getting delayed onset muscle soreness is getting a great workout. Kicked ass yesterday, I can barely walk today. It's not necessarily true, but that's the thing that gets them into the door. So you'd be negligent as a coach, and honestly, you'd have no common sense for building a relationship with your client of not giving them at least an element of what they came there to get. So when we're talking about hypertrophy and metabolic stress, the goal here is to chase the pump. We're going to get the heart rates up, which people love. We're going to get them sweaty, which people love. We're going to feel our butts, and we're going to feel our abs, and we're going to feel things happen. We are going to become very tactile with this type of stimulus and training effect. Now, the traditional hypertrophy scheme I look at is the mythical hypertrophy rep range is about 8 to 15 repetitions. But honestly, we have new emerging research that shows us from 1 RM all the way up to a 30 RM can actually build muscle at the same rates as long as we take it extremely close to mechanical failure on sets. So I love to sit within the 12 to 50, yes, you read that right, 50 rep scheme. And sometimes if people aren't willing to count past 12, I'm not willing to count past 12, we use a lot of time sets and we want the total time under tension, so the entire duration of that set to be over 45 seconds. This is going to induce that metabolic stress effect that we love. Now, of course, metabolic stress is a key driver of hypertrophy, but also it is something that has the ability to regenerate and spark recovery while you're actually training in the session itself. Now, one of the key reasons that we use a lot of metabolic stress pump work in this phase 4 in a lot of my best-selling programs is because it allows people to train harder and recover quicker. That's polar opposite of what most people think. It's like you kill yourself in training and then you have to take more days off. If we do phase 4 correctly, we're actually able to bounce back quicker. We're able to delay and reduce the amount of muscle soreness that we have. And we actually protect the brain up here, and we don't get a whole lot of overtraining that happens centrally with the central nervous system. Now, if you're looking at 50 reps and 4 or 5 working sets there, that's hundreds of reps. So it is pivotal that we get into joint-friendly loading positions and we get into centrated positions, especially taking into account the ball and socket based joints in the body, the shoulders, the hips, and of course, neutrality being maintained in that neutral zone at the spine. Now, taking an example of, hey, you can do barbell bent over rows for sets of 50, good luck, or we can do a chest supported row with the barbell, and we can actually keep the shoulders, hips, and core in a neutral position. You guys know the right answer, but many times we neglect some of these things that are more so common sense when it comes to applicable and common sense-based programming. Now, when we try to distribute training volume in the pump phase, I look at trying to break weak links down and build them back up in terms of hypertrophy and metabolic stress. Many times it ends up being that we need a whole lot more volume on the back side of the body than we need on the front side of the volume. Now, we have a 3-to-1 pull to push ratio that we teach in the Pain-Free Performance Specialist certification. And that's not only for the upper body, it's also for the lower body. And this is where a lot of the hypertrophy work comes in. Now, we can work a ton on the upper back, the back in general, the glutes, the hamstrings. And if you're me, do not skip calf day, because if I did, they would literally disintegrate into the air. Now, the entire lateral and posterior chain is something that you want to key in on with your hypertrophy work, because it is super hip right now. It is super in right now to have a big, strong, meaty ass. Also, I think the upper back is going to be the new glutes moving into the next decade here. 2021 is the upper back decade starting. You heard it here first. Vigor Ground Virtual Summit right here, right now. Now, we want high effort here in the pump. And this is great for a multimodalic-based training session because, again, we can get the heart rate up, we can get the respiratory rate up, we can get the sweat pouring, we can get the muscles burning. And this is one of the best things that we can possibly do as a finisher of your training day. Because most likely the reason that people came in to train with you was to feel exactly like that. Now, part of the client management process is psychology as much as it is physiology or anatomy. Now, the psychology of giving somebody exactly what they want at the end of a training session really improves their buy-in factor. They're going to be thinking, yes, I had an extraordinary training session. Oh, we did corrective exercises. We also did strength work that I don't really like. But at the end, I felt my butt, I felt my abs, and it was fucking great. That's what they're going to go home and think about until they come in for that next training session. So end on a high note and make sure that you're hitting their pain points for the reason that they hired you in the first place. Now, this is a bonus. We went over 4 Ps, but this is too good not to talk about because maybe one of the most effective things that I've adopted across the board with all of my classes, all of my clients, and all of the coaches that are utilizing this system. Talking about parasympathetic positional breathing. Now, this is something that we end every single training session with, even if we're doing cardio or condition, or if we just did a kick-ass deadlift day. We are getting our clients down, laying on their backs, elevating their legs up on a bench, having them close their eyes, taking the visual systems out, having them deep breathe, collect themselves, and actually pay gratitude towards what they just accomplished in that training session. In a matter of 2 to 5 minutes, we can bring the heart rate from 160 down back to a baseline vital metrics of 60. We can get them recovered before they actually leave. And we can make sure that they're not redlining their systems out the door after that training session, especially if they're training in the morning. Now, there are a lot of deep physiological benefits to this, like deep lymphatic drainage, metabolic waste being recirculated and excreted from the body to manage inflammation. But what it comes down to is what we started this presentation with, which is being able to be present with your own thoughts. Being able to pat yourself on the back and say, hey, I did something positive for my health, my wellness, so I can pay it forward to everyone else around me today. And being able to just take a breath, slow down, and be able to take on the next challenge in front of you. Now, deep parasympathetic breathing, this is something that we not only have as a non-negotiable after each and every training day, but this is something that if life gets out of control, if your kids are driving you fucking nuts, mine are upstairs right now, so yes, I'm there as well. You take a couple breaths and you can truly change the way that you feel up here and also in here. Breathing is huge. And it doesn't have to be a 13-day certification or dissertation on exactly what we're doing here. My best recommendation, if you're going to take a minute or two to reset yourself, is extend that inhalation in through the nose, hold for a second or two at the top, breathe it back out, and try to expand down through that belly and really explore how we can get air into the system, because breathing can truly change your life. Now, this is my training from Monday. And I'm actually pretty smitten with myself right now. I'm pretty proud of myself because, like many of you, I've gotten my ass kicked in COVID. I was on a flight going to Sydney, Australia on March 12th. And on March 13th, I got off that flight, 16 hours, and my whole business was taken away. We had 68 pain-free performance specialist certifications canceled. We had about 50% of online training clients drop off because in America on March 13th, as many of you guys know, shit hit the fan. The gyms closed down. The businesses started really backing up and furloughing people. And people started really struggling. People were worried. People became reactionary. And I was half a world away from my kids, away from my wife, my coaches, my businesses. And all we could do at that point in time was give a great course to those people in Sydney, Australia that were dealing with exactly the same thing that we were. So in a matter of 48 hours, it seemed like everything that I worked for 13 years was wiped out. And I know a lot of you guys are feeling exactly the same way right now. I sat in the mental bucket for 3 or 4 days. You know, I got home, I barely wanted to train. I barely wanted to talk to my coaches who I love. I didn't know what I was going to do, and doing nothing at that point in time seemed like a good thing. But, you know, I picked it back up. I started working again. I started getting back into the gym. And I felt good. I found some reprieve in the gym. I found some peace in the gym, kicking my own ass, being able to control controllable factors, even if it was for 45 minutes or 60 minutes a day, and then getting my ass handed to me the rest of the day. You know, the kind of things that keep you up at night, we all dealt with. But that was 7.5 months ago now. And since that day of deciding that I was going to come back in and actually practice what I preach, practice the things that we're certifying thousands of coaches around the world with, I jumped in on Monday and I was actually able to hit a squat PR. And I know it doesn't seem like a big thing. I know it doesn't seem like a life-changing moment. But for me, it was a fucking victory. It was a victory because I've had more sleepless nights in the last 7 months than I've had in the last 7 years. I've had more things happen to me that would have been catastrophic that I would have never thought I could bounce back from, but I did. And I continue to, again, control the controllable factors and being able to react to all the craziness going around. And I know that I'm preaching to the choir here because you guys are battling just like I did. But I want to make sure that you guys know that you see a lot of these experts that will be speaking to you this weekend, see a lot of them. And everyone's struggling the same way at different elements with different challenges, but many of us are trying to pick up the pieces and we're right there. But one thing that helped me out was getting back to training what I truly love to do, practicing what I preached and getting back to the roots of what made me become a career fitness professional. This was my training day on Monday. This is exactly what we just went through. Again, running that P4 blueprint. Using the primer with the vertical jump with band assist, getting a barbell on my back and squatting a weight that I've never squatted in my entire life, despite all the challenges out there. And of course, chasing a nasty pump and having some victorious fun after hitting that squat with some RDLs, some lunges, some hip thrusts, of course, and then paying gratitude to this entire process to the point of almost crying in my parasympathetic breath. Again, it's just a squat. It's just a training day. It's just the gym, but it's more than training. It's more than a squat. It's actually being able to have a controllable factor when everything else seems out of control. And right here, right now, you know, hundreds of people listening in, we love training. We love sharing our passions with other people. We love talking the X's and O's of periodization. But many of our clients, they're not necessarily with you to be super into training. They're not there to learn more about the Krebs cycle. They're ultimately there to search and find a way that they can use training, they can use physicality, they can use health and wellness, the things that you teach them on a daily basis, to make their life better, to make every aspect of their life better, to be able to change the trajectory of their life, to be able to be around for those people that they love most, and more so, to not only extend their lives, but live a better life than if they weren't able to have this type of reprieve in the gym. Now, many of the mistakes that I see coaches making across the world right now is punishing our clients when they come to the gym, force feeding things upon them, trying to make them something that they're not, as opposed to trying to make them live a better life via what you do in the gym. Now, one of my masterminds, when we were first getting back into running the Pain-Free Performance Specialist certifications live and in person across the world, we had our team down in Orlando, Florida. And one of my coaches, Logan Dubé, stood up and said something that really, really got me. And said, training can not only make our clients' lives better, but we live for that client that we can help give them their lives back. I want you guys to think about that, because many of our clients have had their lives taken away from them here in COVID. They've had everything turned upside down. But I hope you guys are the ones, that cornerstone that they can depend on to, again, get things back rolling in the right direction, to be the best version of themselves from the kids, their husbands and wives, and to be able to be somebody who is a strong leader in their community of rebuilding this thing after COVID and beyond. That's what gets me up on a daily basis in the morning. I wake up and I'm ready to go every morning, not because I want to go train, not because I want to socialize, because I want to invoke change across this fitness industry. We've lost 100,000 personal trainers that I know of in the last 7.5 months in this industry, right here in America. We are undermanned. We are underserved. We are underappreciated as fitness professionals. But you know what? 42.4% of American adults are now considered obese. Epidemiological levels of obesity and disease processes in this country. We are going to be the ones that change the game for them. We are the ones that have the tools to change their lives and give them their lives back. The key is that no matter if you do it virtually, no matter if you jump back into the person, that you continue to serve your clients in front of you. You continue to deeply serve them and build your business, build their rapport, and try to change the waves of the fitness industry today. Guys, I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure. And thank you for Luca for putting this on. Luca's got a lot on his plate as well. He's got a lot going in Seattle. And for him to put this on and to make things happen, that's why he's the best. So I appreciate it.
My brother, hey, thank you so much. You're sharp and on time, which I really appreciate, brother. But as always, delivering the value. I love it. And honestly, what's one of the reasons, we even talked about this before, that right now I feel like we all, right, more education, inspiration, navigation, to make sure everybody that's here to understand that, this industry is not going anywhere. Okay. This is a bump in the road. And honestly, anybody that sticks through it is going to get stronger, going to be better through it. And that's why I really, really wanted to do this, even though we had so many bumps in the road and having to cancel the physical one and then kind of redoing it virtually. It was so important that we do this because, every little piece that gets you a step forward, gets you fired up, gets you focused on how this is not the end. It's actually the beginning of something better. That's why we're doing it. But love you, appreciate you, brother. We're staying on point and on time. I'll hit you up afterwards. Anyway, hey guys, hopefully you really, really enjoyed this. Take this and use it, apply it. Don't just let it be like, wow, that was a dope presentation, and then don't do anything with it, right? Go into the gym and start working, start implementing into your program design. Go talk to your team about how this can be, how you can improve your programming and your coaching and everything else, and do the damn work. Don't let it just sit around and 2 weeks from now, it's like, wow, that was so awesome, but I didn't implement anything.